In a legal case that has captivated both the entertainment world and legal analysts alike, country music legend Garth Brooks finds himself at the center of an increasingly complex and highly scrutinized court battle. The dispute between Brooks and his former hairdresser, identified in court documents only as Jane Roe, has taken another dramatic twist, one that leaves more questions than answers. On its surface, the battle is about allegations of extortion and sexual misconduct, but under the hood, it's also a fierce clash over legal strategy, jurisdiction, and the nuanced power of anti-SLAP laws. Now, with a judge in Mississippi making a surprise procedural decision, the course of both lawsuits may be fundamentally altered. This article will explore the history of the legal battle, examine the surprising recent ruling, and consider what it could mean for both parties moving forward. The origins of the legal dispute. The controversy first entered the public eye in September of last year when Garth Brooks filed a lawsuit in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Mississippi. The defendant, his former hairdresser, was referred to in filings as Jane Roe, a pseudonym meant to protect her identity due to the sensitive nature of the allegations. According to Brooks' complaint, Roe attempted to shake him down after he allegedly declined her request for salaried employment and comprehensive medical benefits. Brooks' legal team characterized the situation as a bad faith extortion attempt, alleging that Roe had threatened to go public with damaging allegations unless her employment demands were met. Initially, Brooks sought monetary damages, tort claims, and declaratory relief. However, he later amended his filing to pursue only damages, a strategic shift that some observers believe was aimed at streamlining the case or avoiding further scrutiny. Counterclaims and allegations from Jane Roe. In a swift legal countermove, Roe filed her own complaint in California State Court just weeks later in early October. Her lawsuit painted a starkly different picture of the relationship between her and Brooks. She accused the singer of sexual misconduct, alleging that during one of her routine visits to his home, ostensibly to do his hair and makeup, he exited the shower naked and forced her to touch him inappropriately. Her complaint went on to describe another disturbing incident that allegedly occurred during a trip to Los Angeles for a Grammy-related event. According to her lawsuit, Brooks arranged for the two of them to stay in a hotel room with only one bed. During that trip, she claims, he assaulted her. Brooks has categorically denied these accusations through his attorneys, who characterize Roe's claims as retaliatory and fabricated, a reaction to his refusal to provide her with employment and benefits. The anti-SLAP angle, a legal chess match. A pivotal point in this case centers around legal jurisdiction and the availability, or lack thereof, of anti-SLAP statutes. Anti-SLAP, strategic lawsuits against public participation. Laws are designed to protect individuals from lawsuits intended to silence or intimidate them into refraining from speaking out on matters of public interest. California has one of the strongest anti-SLAP laws in the nation. Mississippi, where Brooks filed his original lawsuit, does not. Attorneys for Jane Roe claim that Brooks filed in Mississippi intentionally, not because it was the most appropriate venue, but as a strategic move to deprive her of the protections she would have had in California. They argue that Brooks filed his suit in bad faith after settlement talks between the two parties fell apart, and just before Roe had the chance to file in her home state. The timing of Brooks' filing, coming immediately after a missed settlement deadline, further fuels suspicions that his primary aim was to preemptively undermine Roe's legal rights. From state to federal, jurisdictional jousting. The legal tug-of-war escalated in November when Roe's California-based lawsuit was removed to federal court, a move likely prompted by the interstate nature of the case and the broader legal implications. Brooks responded by filing a motion to dismiss the California suit, arguing that Roe should have filed her claims as a counterclaim in the Mississippi action. Meanwhile, Roe filed her own motion to dismiss the Mississippi suit, calling it a frivolous and retaliatory filing with no legal merit. To further complicate matters, a December court order required Brooks to notify the California court of any developments in the Mississippi case within 10 days of such changes. The purpose of this requirement was to ensure that the two parallel lawsuits, one in California and one in Mississippi, would remain coordinated and not descend into conflicting rulings or forum shopping. The judge's surprising move, motion deemed moot. The most recent and arguably most perplexing twist came when Judge Henry Wingate, who is presiding over the Mississippi case, issued a short, unexplained ruling declaring that Roe's motion to dismiss Brooks' suit was moot. In legal terms, when a judge deems a motion moot, it typically means that the issue is no longer active or relevant. This could result from a number of scenarios: a settlement, a procedural defect, or even a voluntary dismissal by one of the parties. But what has observers and legal analysts puzzled is that Judge Wingate offered no explanation, a highly unorthodox approach, especially in a high-profile case involving public figures and serious allegations. Legal experts argued that in a case involving sexual misconduct, extortion claims, and a national celebrity, the court has a responsibility to provide transparency and detail. The lack of a written opinion or statement leaves both parties and the public in a state of confusion. What does moot mean here? Possibilities and theories. The decision to label the motion moot without further elaboration has fueled speculation about what's really happening behind the scenes. Confidential settlement. One plausible theory is that the two parties have reached a private settlement. If this were the case, it could explain why the motion to dismiss no longer mattered, because the underlying lawsuit was being voluntarily dropped. Procedural end to Mississippi case. Another possibility is that Brooks may have withdrawn his Mississippi claim without public notice. If that's true, the motion to dismiss would naturally become irrelevant. Court error or oversight. While less likely, some observers are raising the possibility that the court may have made a procedural misstep by failing to properly address or docket the motion. Regardless of the explanation, neither Brooks' attorneys nor Roe's legal team have issued public statements addressing the moot declaration, further deepening the mystery. Implications for the California case. The California lawsuit was stayed or paused pending developments in Mississippi. Under the December order, Brooks is legally obligated to inform the California court of any material changes within 10 days. If the Mississippi case has effectively ended, as the moot ruling might suggest, then Roe's California case could resume full force. Given California's robust anti-SLAPP laws and the fact that it is Roe's home jurisdiction, this would significantly shift the legal momentum in her favor. It could also open the door for further discovery, depositions, and potentially a public trial, something Brooks' team may have hoped to avoid. Media, public reaction, and future fallout. Public reaction to the case has been mixed, largely due to the opaque nature of the proceedings. The absence of transparency from the court, coupled with the serious nature of the allegations, has left many wondering whether the system is adequately serving the interests of justice. Legal commentators have noted that the handling of this case could have long-term implications for how celebrities use civil lawsuits to manage public narratives, particularly when facing potential misconduct allegations. If it turns out that Brooks used the Mississippi filing primarily as a shield against Roe's California claim, critics will likely argue that such tactics represent an abuse of the legal system's jurisdictional flexibility. Looking ahead, what happens next? At this point, several questions remain unanswered. Will Brooks comply with the 10-day notification rule and inform the California court of Judge Wingate's ruling? Has there been a private settlement that both parties are keeping confidential? Will the California court lift the stay and allow Roe's claims to proceed? Until these questions are resolved, the future of both lawsuits remains uncertain. One thing is clear: the legal standoff between Garth Brooks and his former hairdresser is far from over. Conclusion. This case, which initially appeared to be a straightforward defamation versus misconduct battle, has evolved into a multi-jurisdictional legal chess game, with broader implications for celebrity legal strategy, abuse allegations, and civil litigation norms. The surprising and unexplained moot ruling by Judge Henry Wingate may mark a turning point, but without clarity, it only deepens the sense of ambiguity surrounding the case. As the legal saga continues to unfold, all eyes will be on the California court and on Brooks to see what the next move will be.